I'm guessing if you click this video, then you're wanting to learn how to play Soul Masters. Whether you're new to trading card games in general, or you've been hitting up your local game store for tournaments for who knows how long, this is the definitive video that you need to see in order to learn how to play Soul Masters. If you have a question, I don't necessarily touch on it in this video, you can always go to soulmasterstcg.com and check out the official in-depth rulebook yourself. Welcome to Arakiel, gamers. Arakiel is a fantastical world where rival factions duke it out with their armies over territorial disputes. And a game of Soul Masters takes place in this world. A game of Soul Masters is essentially a battle between two commanders and their armies. And what's a surefire way to win a battle against your enemy? Take out the commander. That's how you win a game of Soul Masters. The world of Arakiel, as of recording this video, is broken up into 5 factions. We have Valkyrians, Wolven, Vampirians, and the 2 new factions that just came out, Draconians and Necromancers. Draconians and Necromancers only have 1 commander per faction right now, because they just came out. But the other 3 factions have 2 commanders you can pick from per faction. The Valkyrians have Athena and Vulcania, the Wolven have Keshi and Ragnar, and the Vampirians have Seton and Lamia. Here in front of me, I have a Draconian deck and a Necromancer deck. The Draconian commander is Armarian. The Necromancer commander is Vindus. Commanders can only fight with units from their faction. If you want a more in-depth deck building guide, make sure to let us know in the comments. But if all that sounds a little intimidating for you, you can always pick up one of the Soul Masters starter decks from your local game store or the official online shop. So now we get into the fun part. What do you actually need to play a game of Soul Masters? You will need your commander and their evolutions. You're gonna need some life chips to represent how much health your commander has. You need your 50 card play deck. Those 50 cards are made up of all types of different cards, from units to energy cores. We're gonna get into that. So you can think of your deck like the army that your commander's bringing, as well as some of the cool stuff that they can do in the background to help. But every commander also has their own personal weapons and armor, maybe a battlefield that they want to fight on. Those come in a reserve deck. This is a separate group of cards that you can look at any time, and these are things that your commander specializes in and usually end up bringing some big game-winning effects to the table. The last pile of cards we got here are our resources. It has a resource that they use to play cards out of their reserve deck. I'm going to show you how all that works here in a second. So for the basics, you need a 50 card play deck, your resource deck, your reserve deck, your commander, and some life chippies. A playmat can also be really helpful, especially if you're learning the game and want to know where you need to be putting everything. You can get official ones from the shop online, but it's not mandatory. Now that you know what you need to play, what does it look like when you're putting it all together on the table? You can see my playmat right here. Our 50 card deck is going to go right here. Our commander and their evolutions are going to go right here. Our reserve deck with all the cool stuff our commander can do is going to go right here. Our resource deck with all of our Armarian scales are going to go right here. And lastly, our life chips are just going to go right here. Now that doesn't necessarily cover everything that's on this board. The battleground is where your units get played and where everybody fights. Equipment cards are when you play armor or weapons from your reserve deck, they're going to get played right here. Battlefield cards are the same. If you pull a battlefield card from your reserve deck, it's going to come over right here. The energy field is where you play your energy cores. We're going to go over that more here in a second. And as you generate scales or resources, they're going to flip up and get played right here. Now you know what each of these stacks of cards are, but what goes inside them? Let's look at the different types of cards in Soul Masters. Your 50 card play deck is going to be made up of 4 different types of cards. Every play deck is going to have 25 units. These are your commander's soldiers. Then the other 25 cards are made up of a combination of these 3. We have spells, abilities, and energy cores. How many spells and abilities you want in your deck is totally up to you. The number of each individual card you can have in a deck is dictated by its rarity here. We'll put a chart on screen now. You can screenshot it if you want. That'll tell you how much of each rarity you can put in a deck. That's getting a little in the weeds though. We want to try to keep this basic. The number of energy cores you must have in your deck is dictated by this number on your commander. Now what about your reserve cards? Those really cool game-changing ones that your commander brings to battle. These come in 4 types and you can have 2 of each in your reserve deck. You have reserve weapons, reserve armors, reserve battlefields, and reserve feats. Lastly, the total number of resources you can have on the board at any given time is also dictated by your commander. Dragon Rider's resources is scales. Armarian can have 8 on the board at any given time. So you know what cards you need to play, you know what all of the different card types are, and you know even how it looks on the board as you're setting it up. But what do all the numbers and words on the cards mean? Let's break down the anatomy of a Soul Masters card. First, let's go over commanders. And you'll notice a bunch of these things are similar across both commanders and units and some other types of cards too. Here you have the card's name, how much damage that card can do, that card's shield capacity. We'll go over that here in a second. This number and this number dictate how many resources and how many energy cores you must have in your deck. So Armarian must have 6 energy cores in his 50 card play deck, and Armarian's resource deck must have 8 resource cards. Your commander's abilities, their health, the 2 next next to the 10 is how many mercenaries you can put in your deck. That's a little in the weeds for this video, but we can go over that later. The bottom part of Armarian's ability says Conjure 2. What that means is that if Armarian is attacking, he gets to conjure or put 2 resources from his resource deck onto the field. So if you see Conjure on your commander or another card, that means you're adding to your resources. Now, a unit looks a little different. Again, you have their unit's name and faction identity. The 1 in the upper left corner is the cost to play this unit. Again, we're going to go over this in a little bit when we talk about energy cores, but this is how much it costs to play this unit. The 2 next to the crossed swords is how much damage this unit can do. The shield capacity tells me how many cards out of my hand I can discard to defend it. You can see that Armarian has 1 and Milo has 0. Now this shield in the corner tells you how much damage is mitigated if this card is discarded in defense. Example, if Armarian is attacked, I can discard 1 card out of my hand. If I discard Milo, I'm going to mitigate 1 damage. The 3 there is their health, and then the unit's ability is right here in the middle. When you can use these abilities is dictated by skill bubbles. Skill bubbles are usually self-explanatory or defined on the card itself. If a keyword says once, that means I can do it once per round, meaning my enemy's turn or my turn. A full list of skill bubbles and their definitions can be found on the Soul Masters Learn to Play guide. We'll put the link in the description for you. The next kind of card we're going to talk about are spells. You can see all the combat stuff is missing from the side. That's because this is a one-time use card to give you some kind of advantage or augment the game. I would pay 2 energy in order to play this card, and then I can do whatever it says here. For this one, it lets me search my deck for a card I might need. The thing about spells, though, is you can only play spells on your turn. You cannot play them in the middle of a fight. It's got to be its own thing, and on your turn. That is where ability cards are different. Ability cards can be used on your turn or your opponent's. You just need to have the appropriate amount of energy ready to pay to use it. For example, Swift Attack would let my target unit or commander get +2 damage this combat. It would also let me generate a scales, letting me get a resource. Finding the right balance of spells to ability cards in your deck is a very personal choice. And then again, if deck building is a little too much for you right now, you can always grab a starter deck. They'll have everything you need to play. The next kind of card I want to talk about are energy cores. In Soul Masters, we use energy to pay to play cards. Any card in your deck can be used as energy. On any given turn, you can take 2 of them and put them into your energy field. Those cards in your energy field are now energy. I can do what's called resting that energy, meaning that, hey, I'm saying I'm using these 2 right now. Boom, boom, turn them sideways. That's rest. To play this card that costs 2. Boom. Now, just because any card in your deck can be energy doesn't mean they should be. That's where cores come in. If I have an energy core in my hand, I can actively swap this card with one of these face down cards in my energy field. All I got to do is just take this, pick up the card I had down there, and replace it with that. And now I can use my energy core just like I was using that other card before. This is a dragon core, and they're used by the new Dragon Riders faction. You can see this core has a couple unique things about it, but most cores aren't going to be having combat numbers, defense numbers, or energy cost. But all you have to know for right now is that energy is how you pay for stuff. And cores let you get the cards you need back from your energy field into your hand so you can play them. The only time you're not going to use energy cards to pay for stuff is when you're pulling out reserve cards. Remember those really cool things your commander's bringing specifically into the fight. You'll notice the cost in the upper left is red here. So if I want to bring out my Fang Halberd, I'm not going to pay for energy. I'm going to pay for resources. Now remember, every time your commander attacks, you're going to activate the part of it that says conjure. So every time Armarian attacks, he's going to be conjuring 2 scale resources. So Armarian attacks, I get 2 of these to put onto the field. Then once I have 4, I could potentially play my Fang Halberd. Only thing is that neither player can play any reserve cards on their first turn of a game. Even if it costs 1 resource and you have that 1 resource on your very first turn, can't play the reserve card. Gotta wait till your turn too. I know that's a lot of information, but now you know what you need to play, how it looks on the table, and what all of the different card types are. So what does a turn actually look like? You'll always start a game of Soul Masters with 5 cards in your hand, and every turn you draw 2 more. Then you go into what's called your main phase. This is the bulk of your turn where you can just do what you want. There's no specific time when you have to put energy down, or when you have to play units, or when you have to say you're attacking. You can do all of that inside your main phase in any order you want. For the purposes of this example, let's say I play 2 cards down for energy, and then I'm going to rest those 2 cards to play my Dragon Spirit. That lets me search my deck for a card I might want. I put the card I picked into my hand. Dragon Spirit goes away, but not before I generate a scales. Most of your spells and abilities are going to let you generate resources as you play them. Because I generate 1 scales, I'm going to move 1 scales from my resource deck onto the resource field. Now reminder, how do we win a game of Soul Masters? Yes, class, we take out the enemy commander. In order to do that, you need to know how to attack. Let's say I want to attack with my Armarian commander against my opponent's Vindus commander. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my commander sideways to rest it. I'm declaring my attack. I'm saying, this is my person who I want to attack with, and I'm going to attack that one. Now there are 2 different things you want to take into account when you're attacking. If you're attacking an enemy commander, you're weighing the power that you're swinging with against the health of your opponent's commander. My Armarian has a power of 3. Vindus has a health of 10. If she doesn't do anything to defend, she is going to lose 3 life chips. But what if I want to attack an enemy unit, not the commander? That functions a little differently. Let's say I wanted to use my Praetorian Guard to attack my opponent's Valera Graveborn. The first thing I'll do is turn my Praetorian Guard sideways and say, my guy is attacking yours. The next thing we look at is how much power my guy has versus how much health my opponent has. If I meet or beat my opponent's health, then I'm gonna knock them out. But if I don't meet or beat my opponent's health, then nothing happens. Damage doesn't accumulate from combat to combat in Soul Masters, at least not for units. So I couldn't attack with somebody with a power of 1 and then attack with somebody with a power of 1 and then take her out. I have to have 2 or higher in one instance of combat. Now, damage in combat in Soul Masters is always one-sided, meaning if I'm going to attack my opponent's unit or my opponent's commander, damage is only dealt to the defending unit. My attacker doesn't take damage. So even though Valera Graveborn has 2 damage on her card, because it's my guy attacking, he isn't taking any of that, but he will do 3 damage to her. Also important to note, the only valid targets in combat are either rested units, so units that have been used and turned to the side, or your opponent's commander, which can be attacked whether it's rested or not. Now, if you're getting attacked, you're not defenseless. If somebody's swinging at me and I have this little 1 right here on whatever card's getting attacked by my commander or unit, I can look at the cards in my hand and choose to discard 1 and mitigate the amount of damage equal to that card's shield value in the lower left. The other thing you can do mid-combat is play ability cards. If my Praetorian Guard is attacking my opponent's Vindus, I can pay 1 energy to play this card, Swift Attack, and that's gonna add 2 damage to what I'm throwing at them. But let's say I'm getting attacked. I need a way to defend myself. If I have it, I can pay 1 energy and play this Parry ability card. It's going to prevent 2 damage, making sure that I'm not taking the full force of the blow. Now, when you're defending from an attack, it's very important to take into account units that have intercept as a part of their ability or have the defender skill bubble. Now, let's say my Izzet is going to be attacking this Velmira. My opponent could rest their Hellhound and pull the attack onto it, intercepting it. The defender skill bubble is referencing a specific phase of combat. Because remember those ability cards I was talking about earlier? We can go back and forth with those, reacting to each other, building up a stack of effects. But as soon as an opponent declares that they're activating a defender, or that they're passing defender, you'll be moving into another phase of combat called post-defender, where you can keep adding things to that stack. But if you add a bunch of stuff in the pre-defender phase, and then your opponent decides to block an attack with something with intercept, then all those cards you played to pump up your attack are gonna be going to a target that you didn't intend. A little bit of counterplay tech for you. Some cards say that you can't even play them in the post-defender phase, meaning you can only play them at the beginning of combat. But again, that's getting a little in the weeds. We'll link you an advanced combat guide down below in the description. That way you can see more in detail what I'm talking about. A game of Soul Masters is a chain of attacks of you swinging on your opponent swinging at you to see who brought the stronger army. And once you've done everything you can in your turn, you're going to pass to your opponent for theirs. Now that you know the basics, let's show you what a round of Soul Masters looks like. My wife Sarah is going to be playing Vindus. I'll be playing Armarian. These are the 2 new factions in the game that just came out. Let's show them what a couple turns looks like.
All right.
When you're starting a game of Soul Masters, you always shuffle your 50 card deck and then offer it to your opponent to cut. Then, in order to determine who goes first, you either rock, paper, scissors, or you can flip a coin. All right, Sarah, heads or tails?
Tails.
All right, it was heads, so I will be going first.
All right.
Then we're both going to draw 5 cards. Once you draw your first 5 cards, you can choose to mulligan some of them if you don't like them. You can take any number of cards, all of them if you want, put them on the bottom of your deck, redraw that number of cards, then reshuffle. You want to mulligan?
Nope, I'm good.
I'm going to mulligan 2. So I'm going to take 2 cards, put them on the bottom of my deck, draw 2 cards, then reshuffle. Sarah will recut, and now I'll start the first turn of the game. I'll draw 2 cards. On the first turn of a game of Soul Masters, you can only play 1 energy card. After that, you can play 2 in every other turn. So I'm going first. I'm only going to play 1. I will play my Piercing Drake Energy Core. I'm going to then rest that Piercing Drake Energy Core to play my Milo. On each player's first turn, you cannot attack, so that's all I can do in this turn, so I'll pass to Sarah.
All right.
So Sarah will draw 2 cards. Now, because it's the second turn of the game, she can play 2 energy cards. She's not restricted to 1.
I'm going to play an artifact core for my energy, and then another energy. And I'm going to rest my energies to play the skeleton wall.
Ah, the skeleton wall. And again, because it's her first turn of the game, she can't attack. Your energy is spent. Is that your turn?
Yep.
Cool, so she passes back to me. I draw 2 more cards. And now, because it's not the first turn of the game, I can play 2 energy. We're gonna be putting down our Armored Drake, and we will put 1 more down as an energy core. We are going to rest all 3 to play Tyrann. And now we get to attack. So the first thing I'll do is I will rest Armarian Windwalker. I will generate 1 scales, because my commander is attacking. And I will swing 3 damage at your leader. Sarah's choosing not to defend, so she's removing 3 single-point chips from her life stack. The first turn that any unit is played unless they have the keyword haste, that unit can't do anything. You can't rest the unit to use effects written on the card, and you can't attack with the character. It's called summoning sickness. However, because I played Milo on my last turn, he can attack. Or Milo is going to swing 2 damage towards your commander. Sarah is going to discard a card out of her hand in order to protect herself because Vindus has a 1 in that green bubble underneath the shield on her card. She can discard 1 card from hand to mitigate damage. Sarah chose to discard the card Crucifixion. That card has a shield value of 1, so it will protect her from 1 damage.
All right, I'll pass Defender and no response.
And that's how Soul Masters plays. Congratulations, guys! Now you know how to play the Soul Masters trading card game. If you want to try it out for yourself, all you gotta do is go to your local game store, grab a starter deck. You can also open up booster packs to get more cards to build new decks or augment the ones you have. And again, you can get those at your local game store or go online to the Soul Masters TCG website. Hope you had fun. Leave it in the comments, what commander would you want to learn how to play? And we'll see y'all in the next one. Have fun!